aka Miss WC Reader, and welcome back to my channel. So it's the middle of the year, we're getting there, and it's super hot out, so don't mind me if I look a little shiny. It is very humid today. I was thinking about, what my best and worst reads have been for this year, and honestly, a lot of books have just been middle of the road for me, so I don't have too many that I feel strongly about, like this is my absolute worst and this is my absolute best, other than like a handful. So I'm like, that's not enough to make an interesting video, but let me talk about my DNFs. And I actually have less DNFs than I thought I did, because a lot of books like I never got to, so I just pushed them to the next month or 2 months from now. But there were a few that I had to put down and could not pick back up, so let's talk about those. So the first one for the year was Offset the Mask of Bimshire. I really wanted to enjoy this one because you don't see a lot of black fantasy that is about boys, and then it is set on a Caribbean inspired island, so I thought that was really neat. The company that published this, normally they do comic books, and I think I will prefer this one in comic book form, which I know a comic book is supposed to be coming soon if it hasn't dropped already. I feel like the prose was just kind of bland and dragging on, and it was having trouble like capturing my attention. Like, some things were interesting, but I just feel like it was just too drawn out in the format that it was in. I would much rather prefer to read it in the comic book format, so I will do that instead. I DNF'd Faybound, and I had DNF'd The Final Strife by this author, so this was me giving her a second chance. The Final Strife, I don't think I made it past chapter 2 or 3. That one was fucking boring. And this had the same issue. I didn't make it past like chapter 2 either. The way this author writes is just fucking boring. She writes this long, drawn-out prose. Like, if you're gonna start off a fantasy, start it off interesting. I feel like both of the books started off very dry, and then from what I heard, after, the dryness just continues, and this is supposed to be adult fantasy, but people were saying that this reads very teenish, even though the characters are like 30, so that didn't vibe with them. And just listening to people talk about it, I'm like, oh yeah. I don't regret not finishing this one, because it sounded like it had some of the same issues that I had with Lore of the Wilds, which is one that I pushed through against my better judgment, so I was perfectly fine DNFing Faybound. Vacation Crush. So everybody was talking about Beyonce. She just dropped Texas Hold'em, where like Cowboy Carter is coming, and everybody was talking about reading black cowboy romances, and I'm like, I read black cowboy romances. I read at least one a year. I love that stuff. I usually get mine from Harlequin. Desire is gone now, so like I'm wondering how many they're actually going to do going forward. But I had this one sitting on my shelf for a while. Like, the cover is cute. I have not read it yet. Now is the perfect time while I'm in the mood, and it's on trend. So I started it, and I feel like it took me like 2 weeks and I barely moved in it, so I had to put it down. Something about the couple just did not vibe for me at all. Like, the writing style just was not intriguing to me. It wasn't giving me those feels that I like, and usually I can like speed through a Harlequin Desire, so I knew I had to put this one aside. Sister Samurai. So the Black Prose Club was doing a readathon for the month of May, and this was a book that I heard Chelsea from the Melanin Library talk about all the time. So I'm like, okay, I will read it because it was on Hoopla. I tried with this one, I really did, but I had to eventually DNF at chapter 11 because the entire time I was reading it, I didn't give a shit what was happening on page. Like, I did not ever connect to Sister Samurai to care about her journey. I don't know if part of the reason is because I'm not an anime watcher, and I never watched Afro Samurai, and this is kind of similar. Like, I feel like stuff was happening, but nothing was really impacting me in any type of way for me to care at all. So that's why I ended up putting it down. Like, I got to chapter 11, there's 19 chapters, and just like, I can't do this anymore. I am not having a great time, and I don't really care what's going on the page, so it's going to end up being like a 3-star or less. The 7-10 Split. I wanted to read this one so badly. I'm like, yes, there's like a bowling team. It's a black sapphics. Like, I don't understand Harlequin's new Afterglow imprint. I really don't. And so far, I've DNF'd 2 of the books now. And I have one that I have not even picked up yet because I'm really unsure of. Harlequin is like doing like this revamp and I'm not vibing with their new stuff. I don't understand what's supposed to be different about this imprint. The heat levels are all over the place. Like, the 7-10 split could have been good, but it was too slow burn. I stopped around 42% and nothing had really happened. And like, there was this forced enemies to lovers plot, which I don't really love. Enemies to lovers in contemporary romance, I feel like it's always forced, but in this case it was very forced. Like, the reason for their friendship breakdown didn't make any sense, and to hold on to this pettiness as grown-ass adults who were teaching children years later also didn't make any fucking sense. And they just did not have great chemistry. Like, it was tepid at best. Like, I don't necessarily mind a slow burn. I can do a slow burn if there's great chemistry throughout, if the story feels strong, and it didn't feel strong here. It didn't feel like I was highly anticipating them getting together. And then I ended up flipping through to see, like, okay, when are they gonna have sex? Because I gotta know. And the sex scene was so dry and lifeless, which was so weird because I just recently read The Emperor and the Endless Palace, which was also Harlequin, and they got it in that book. I'm talking about fluids and rimming and all types of good stuff. So to get to this sapphic book and like, we didn't even get a good description here. Like, ain't nobody was even licking the clit, nothing like that. It was annoying. Like, I was so annoyed reading that. I'm like, we just barely got a description of her mound and that was it. No good, like, bumping, rubbing, none of that good stuff. There was like no detail in this sex scene. I'm like, well, that's disappointing. Just at least give us that. I thought this was supposed to be like the young and fresh and like line, and it was not giving that at all. So that one did not work for me. And like I said, I DNF'd another book from Afterglow, so I DNF'd Manila in Manhattan. That one also just did not work for me, but that one, I lasted even less with that one. I DNF'd after chapter 1. So this one is set during COVID time, which doesn't necessarily bother me, but basically, girl has boy who show up on her doorstep. He's wearing a mask, so she doesn't necessarily know what he looks like, but she invites him into her apartment, asks him if he got COVID tested, but doesn't have him wash his hands or even his ass after he came off of a 15-hour fucking flight, and proceeds to have sex with him. What is the point of worrying about germs if you're gonna do that shit? That was nasty. Like, who the fuck cares that his test came back negative if you're gonna do that shit? And on top of that, this sex scene was not good. It was not good. They didn't have good chemistry, and I'm like, this is chapter 1. I'm gonna hate this book, so let me stop now before I continue to disappoint myself, because if the couple hooks up in chapter 1 and you don't like them in chapter 1, it's just never going to get better for you. So I had to put that one down and give it away. So yeah, that's everything that I DNF'd for the year so far. Let me know if any of these were on your TBR, if you read them, what your thoughts were, if you did, or like maybe like a rating or something. If you like this video, make sure and hit that like button. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!